go live. There we go. All right. Jeez, nothing like having trouble trying to get a live feed going. And good God. YouTube can be a challenge, folks. I will tell you, there is nothing like trying to do a YouTube live like this and having it fall apart. Nothing like it. Uh, there's days when nothing wants to work right. I'm telling you, just unbelievable how challenging sometimes these lives can be. Oh, jeez. Okay, I think. Oh, there we go. Got somebody back. Hey, there he is. This one, I figured it out. I definitely goofed. It's just amazing how challenging doing this can be. And I think it's probably because I set this up and, and you're editing, 10, 12 hours of editing a video and, and then excuses, right? But reality is, you're editing away, you're trying to get that done. And then, gee whiz, hang on, John. You end up uploading as, oh, there we go. I think I got everybody back now. And now the live notification just came up. All right. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Now hopefully we get some more folks on that didn't see the other link, because when you upload these videos, and I was kind of saying this on the other live that I was just doing that most of you probably are going to miss. Well, most of you missed, other than the 3 that were there. But when you upload videos, and I've done hundreds of videos, you always set them as unlisted when you upload them so that you could go in and do some edits before you release the video, right? So it's normally you wouldn't upload a video and let it go. And it's the same with a live. You want to be able to upload, you want to be able to not upload, you want to upload it, and then you want to be able to edit it before you put it out. So if this is nothing else, it could be a lesson in YouTube for all the folks out there that want to do YouTube. Here's one of the challenges that you face is that you go and you build something, you put it all together. And if you're trying to do too many things at once, guess what? You forget that you had it on unlisted and nobody sees it. Paul Green, hey, good morning. This is the live. Nope, you're in here at actual, it's live. Welcome. Oh my goodness. So it looks like we've got John Paul, Arrowhead. You still there? Yes, there you are. Making any progress on my engine? I haven't worked on it yet. So if you watched yesterday's video, and by the way, there's going to be a video today premiering right after this live. And I actually wasn't able to work. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, I had to check something to see because of the challenge I had here. But so what's really funny is I'm seeing 2 on the channel right now, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the chat. So I don't know if there's an issue with guys popping in and out, or if you dropped out or something like that. But that should have an engine ECM or PCM. Yeah, so it is an injected engine, and I haven't actually touched. Okay, I've touched the mill, but that's it. and if you saw yesterday's video, you probably saw that when Kevin Bales showed up with his sawmill. And so that video actually was done, like all videos, that was done about 2 weeks ago. And I had just had a shot in my back so that I could start walking without a cane. I was still using the cane for a while there. And so I haven't touched the mill. It's still sitting there. It has a band on it, and I haven't even cleaned the sawdust off. Those are big no-nos. You should really pull the band, clean the mill, lube it, grease it, all that stuff, right? And I couldn't do it. So the mill has sat without me being able to do anything with it. And I'm finally able to do stuff again. In fact, yesterday I wasn't working on the mill. I spent 8 or 10 hours editing today's video. So yes, right after this live, there will be a premiere where I'm going to bring you Kevin Bales, who's got over 2,100 hours on his LT40 wide. I'm going to bring you him milling up sycamore that I couldn't do because I couldn't walk and my mill was sick. And that's going to be fun. I think you guys are going to enjoy that. So you're going to get to see a little bit of difference for those who haven't seen the LT40 wides, but also haven't seen somebody with over 1 million board feet under his belt in milling. Kevin, he moves fast. Also, he had to come here and drive from 3 hours away, come down and knock out 2 jobs and then head home. And it got up to like 100 degrees. So, but all right, and enough. Yeah, I couldn't walk, so I haven't worked in the mill. But yesterday, I actually worked on my Jeep. and I know that probably sounds like sacrilege to somebody who runs a sawmill and expects me to get that maintenance done, and I need to. But I had a friend coming over who offered to help with the Jeep, and I was planning on doing that at some point this weekend. And so he came over and pulled the spare tire off the back for me because I can't basically lift anything heavy right now, because I run the risk of re-injuring my herniated disc. So I just decided, if I could get someone else to help get that tire off, then I could put the back rack and the reinforced tailgate together. And he just happened to ping me and say, "Hey, you want to do it now?" And I thought, you know what? I'm done editing this video. Let's go. So there you go. And yeah, that I think what I'm going to do with the mill is, first I'm gonna pull the plugs, swap them out, take a look at them. I'm sure they're going to be black. Do oil filter, do the air filters, put some seafoam in it, and then run it. And the idea is to see if I can't clear out the carbon with the seafoam, get everything running again, and see what happens. And if it still runs rich, there was something that I read online about the Kohler engines, the Kohler gas, the injected engines, in that if you get a bad ground on those, they can do this. I can't imagine that I have a bad ground. And in fact, Kevin's mill that you'll see today, and you kind of saw in the beginning of yesterday's video, he's got over 2,100 hours on it, and he hasn't had a problem like this. So, and he's put 1,600 hours on in 2 years. So I'm just not sure why suddenly mine decided to do this. We're going to find out. But I did have some problems with the control panel. I'm concerned that I had some lightning a little too close to the mill. It injected some gremlins into it, and that could be it. So it could be a corroded ground. Need an inversion table. Yes, I've actually had several people now tell me that I need to get an inversion table, so I'm going to have to do that. And I get the concept behind it, right? You've been compressing your spine all day long, so if you reverse it, you uncompress the spine. And I've talked to a few people that say 10-15 minutes, and it gives them quite a bit relief. Now, in this case, I had a steroid injection, so that really helped. I didn't think it was. I was pretty much hobbling around, and it got to the point where I could get up and walk, 50 yards, and that'd be good, but then it wasn't. Now I'm actually pretty good, and I was on my feet all day yesterday, so that was awesome. But all right, so morning coffee. This is a little different for us, right? And for all of you that have joined us, do me a favor, drop a line down below. Let me know in the chat where you're at, because I'm really curious to see. I decided to do this morning chat for those that work, that work all night or can't join the evening. I know the Arrowhead Woodsman, he's been on my channel. I don't know, how long have you been on my channel now? And I need to remember your first name at some point. I'm bad that way. But he's been on the channel for a very, very long time. And usually he's working and not able to join on the Sunday evening chats. And I know I've got folks from Germany that comment a lot. I'm pretty sure that Nicola, I think it's Nicola Myers. And if you're watching this, thank you for your super chats. They really help out. But I think he's probably overseas. There's some folks from Australia, New Zealand, all over the world that watch. And I decided to try to do this morning live Q&A so that it would give you guys a chance to ask the questions with me live, because they're usually sleeping in the middle of the night. So let me know where you're at. Say hi. Don't be shy. Drop your questions down below, and I'll talk about anything. Doesn't matter. I'm an open book, so whatever you want to hear, I'm happy to tell you about it. Obviously, sawmilling stuff. I'll answer any questions I can, but I'll answer any others too. Pat Wright, Southwest Michigan. Now, do you have a YouTube channel, Pat? I can't remember, and I'm kind of bad that way. I think because I spend so much time editing. So if I'm not running the sawmill or working or doing other things, I'm editing videos. But no, okay, just checking. I sometimes I forget who does and who doesn't, and let me know what kind of mill you got. So I'm assuming, Pat, you probably have a Wood-Mizer, but maybe you don't. I know I've got folks that don't that watch the channel, but if you've got something else, let me know. If you're just joining for the first time, let me know, and don't be shy. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you want to know. Mm. And we do have that premiere in half an hour, though I may push it out a little bit just to give folks a chance to ask some questions. Um, Simply because sometimes that's like this morning when things didn't work out very well. Suddenly, I think I'm going to push that video out 15 minutes, and there I just did it. That way we've got a little bit more time. I tend to go, just got your 40 wide a month ago. Awesome. Well, I'm going to tell you, you're going to want to watch today's video after this live, because it's Kevin Bales on his LT40 wide. It's a 2017, the first edition of the wide heads. His mill is a year newer than mine, and I was actually really impressed. So I know there's guys out there, Ben Bradley at Dusty Ranch, Dave over at Old Man and the Saw, and I think Steve at MSD Making Sawdust. Several of those guys out there have the wide head mills, and I've got to tell you, I've always kind of wondered how well they would cut. You're talking a 6-inch wider head. And I know Wood-Mizer's got a great reputation. They're just awesome. But I still thought, gosh, I don't know, like that extra 6 inches I've seen on really wide, 27, almost 28-inch cuts, where if I'm not careful, I can get a bit of a crown. And so I always kind of wondered, would they wave out a little more? That's 6 more inches of band you got to deal with. And you'll see today in today's video, which is the first of a series, Kevin just rocking and rolling on his wide, and I'll tell you, it cut fantastic. Now he's really figured it out, and one of the things that I plan on doing over the next several videos is talking a little bit about some of what you see in there on what he's doing that may be a little bit different than what I do. And in today's video, you're going to see some of that. But he's definitely got it dialed in, and I was really impressed with that wide. They didn't have them when I bought my mill, and I always said, well, I don't know if I would or wouldn't go to a wide. Well, after watching Kevin on his mill, I would absolutely go to a wide today. In fact, I'm not even sure why you wouldn't go to a wide today. So when you see today's video, I'm telling you right now, if there was any doubt about the wide head mills, that's over for me. Absolutely thinking that if I bought my mill pre wide heads, now today, if I was going to buy a mill today, I would get a wide head, 100%, no doubt about it. Obviously cutting wider is better, right? But I just wasn't sure how well they would do. So if you've got any worries about those wide heads, I'm telling you what, I have none. Kevin's mill, he's put over 1 million board feet on it, and he rocks and rolls on that mill. So definitely. So anyway, questions. What questions do you guys got? Again, welcome to the channel. I got 7 of you out there, 3 or 4 in the chat. So drop a line down below. Let me know where you're at, who you are, and if you got any questions, ask them. Open book. I'll answer any questions. Now I'm going to take a sip of coffee. I'm almost out of coffee though, so I don't know. I should have brought 2 cups up. Oh, so you just got your 40. Have you had a different mill, Pat? Let's see. Got a question here. Have a friend who will let me take any dead standing fir and pine that I want from his property, and I'm thinking about building a square log dovetail cabin kit. What about sawing dry logs? So that's funny that you ask that. Chris over at the Kilted Sawyer, he and I have kind of joked back and forth a little bit because he does a lot of dry wood, and I've definitely sawn a lot of dry wood. If you're doing beams, you have no issues with dry wood. I mean, ideally, you don't want to mill dry standing wood. In my last video, I actually talk about that. I've milled a lot of dry wood. Don't get me wrong. It's just ideal to mill fresh green wood. If you're milling wood that's dead standing dry, a lot of times it's going to be checked. And so when you try to make, say you're trying to make 1-bys or 2-bys out of it, chances are you're going to have a lot of checked wood, at least on the outer parts of the log, depending on how long it stood. And the longer it stood, the more likely it's going to check. But on beams, posts, log cabin kits, that kind of thing, it's not an issue. They're going to check anyway. So I would say if you're thinking about doing a log cabin kit, it should be no problem at all, because you're just going to knock them down to 6 or 8 inches. I don't see any issue with that whatsoever, actually. So you should be fine right there. Well, yes, Minnesota. I knew that. I'd love to come visit you someday. First mill, Pat. Wow, you bought an awesome mill for your first mill. A lot of guys usually start with small mills, but honestly, you get that mill dialed in, you will love it if you haven't already. And if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. That's why I do these. It's my thing, right? I love to try to help people out, and so just ask away. And there ain't no dumb questions out there, only the ones that aren't asked. So if you've got any questions about running that mill, how to do things, why to do things, what things to consider, ask away. I usually try to put something like that in all of my videos. So definitely today you're going to see some of that in today's video that I'm going to premiere right after this, and I'll be live in the chat there. But that one you're going to see some stuff, and I'll talk about it. It's pretty interesting, and I think some of you that run these wood misers, the bigger wood misers, might find it interesting too, because there's some things that Kevin does differently than I do, and I have to admit I learned quite a bit from him. Of course, I guess I don't mind admitting that, frankly, because I'm always learning, right? I learn from all the guys here that have channels. There's always something you can learn, and that's kind of why I do what I do. But I learn a lot from Kevin. And funny thing is he and I were on par in terms of how much milling we had done up till about 2 years ago. And up to that point, we had about the same hours on our mills and everything. And I was just kind of gearing up to mill because I had taken a couple of years where I really slowed down. And then I started gearing up and milling again. Well, I ramped up a little bit. Kevin ramped up a whole heck of a lot of it. And, and so our mills were like, that same amount of hours. His is a year newer than mine, but we had about the same hours. And then he just went like that and pegged the hour meter on his mill. So, but all right, what else we got? We got 7 of you out here. If you're out there, say hi. Let me know where you're at. And if you got any questions, I'll answer them. Doesn't matter what it's about. I actually told somebody, now if you run my last live, then I'm a bread maker too, right? I make a lot of stuff. I don't just sawmill. But I told somebody recently in a chat that she's actually a subscriber on one of my other channels. And I said, when I do these lives, I answer any questions. So if you got something you want to ask, just pop it out, drop it in the live, ask me, I'll answer it. I don't care. I'd be about bread or sawmilling or Jeeps or whatever. I don't mind answering them. And YouTube, I often answer questions about YouTube and what I do and the mistakes I make, because that's how I learn. Like this morning when I had my first live that I put out, unlisted. Not fun. So, all right, what other questions we got? We've got, it's only 6:35, so we got plenty of time. Ask away. Oh, coffee's out, though. So where are we at? Let's see. I talked about my back, talked about the mill a little bit. I guess I'll give you a little bit of an update on the channel while I wait for some questions. So today we'll kick off. I mean, yesterday kind of did. Today, we'll kick off a series of videos that I'll be doing. I'm guessing maybe 5 or 6. where Kevin Bales came down and helped me out. And because I couldn't run my own mill, not only was it sick, but I couldn't even work on it to fix it. And so Kevin comes down and he ended up milling up. He did 2 jobs for me. One of those were 2 pretty gnarly sycamores that had to get trimmed up and bucked in half and then milled. And they were in 2 separate locations. So the fun part of that one is I got to use the Jeep to move some logs for him. And then the end of that series will be him milling up the maple that I quartered for a customer in the middle of their yard. So if you saw the video where I was chainsaw milling up a maple and the saw falls over and the chain comes off and actually the bar bent and I had to replace the bar, that log I never got back to quartering. And one of the challenges was I was having trouble with the hydraulics on the mill. I got that resolved. And, so I was going to go mill for these folks. Losing my voice. And, so here I am. They're waiting for me all winter. They're waiting for me to get my mill fixed. And of course, we had a bunch of snow. So they're waiting for the snow to get out to melt. And I get my mill fixed. I get it up to the cabin to do that trial run, right? I'm going to take it up to the cabin, do a bunch of milling and test the hydraulics out and make sure everything's ready to go. And lo and behold, I end up with this rich milling problem and my back goes out and I can't do anything. So I had to call Kevin in. So you're going to see all of that where he actually mills up that maple. And you asked about milling dry stuff. That maple was so incredibly dry. I was really, really worried that it was badly, badly checked because I had quartered it in like beginning of November, end of October last year. I guess it was November. And so you've got, December, January, February, March, April, May, 6 months later, and it's been sitting in this guy's yard in the desert in the Tri-Cities drying. And so I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be a problem. Lo and behold, it actually turned out really nice. Once you got through the outer skin, basically, it was really good. So I was really impressed. Beautiful spalted maple. So I'll bring you some of that. And you're gonna hear me say something in today's video that I think is going to shock you. So John, I know you have family coming over. You're gonna want to see this video because I'm gonna say something that's gonna shock some people. Because if you've watched my channel, you may find out that I might be making a change in the near future that I never imagined I would make. And Kevin, he convinced me. And I'm actually looking at it now going, okay, I've been missing out for a long time. So you'll see that in today's video. All right, what questions have you got? I've got a few of you out there still. So 7, we're sitting at 7 right now. I think I've got 3 in the chat. The other 4 are just hanging out. Drop down below where you're at. I'd love to hear, especially if you're overseas somewhere. Morning, bread maker, Oysterville, Washington. Where the heck is Oysterville? It's got to be over on the coast. And Patrick, do you have a mill or just making bread? I'm curious. But Oysterville, I've never heard of Oysterville. Where's that at? And by the way, I'm making some awesome bread today. We're going to a little Jeep party today. It's just kind of like a Jeep barbecue with the club. And because I'm a bread maker, everybody always wants me to bring bread. But I'm bringing some Asiago sourdough. Oh, man, it's going to be so good. I love sourdough. But when you put Asiago cheese in bread, that just improves it. I tell you, it's amazing. There's something about Asiago and, sharp cheddar works really well too. The one thing about bread, and I know this is mostly sawmilling, but I always say I'll answer any questions, and talk about anything too, for that matter. But when you put something like a sharp cheddar or an Asiago into your sourdough bread, it's amazing. It's just awesome. Does anyone carry any special insurance? Oh, Long Beach. Okay, gotcha. LT40, right on. Clamming, I heard about a bunch of folks out there clamming. Okay, so let me get to this question from Pat. Actually, a lot of people do. And somebody said you need to have a marine rider. I've gone back and forth between the need to do it or not. and there was a great discussion on forestry forum about insurance. And I've gone back and forth. So I don't carry extra liability on my mill. I've always had a contract with my customers that basically says any injuries are on you. It's not me. This is dangerous work. So you have to be responsible, and that kind of stuff, right? If you get injured on the job, it's your responsibility. I've always felt comfortable with that because I keep an eye on everything when I'm milling and everybody when I'm milling, but you can't stop someone from tripping and hurting themselves, right? And in theory, you should be covered if you've got a contract that says if you trip and fall and hurt yourself, it's your fault. But during this discussion on Forestry Forum, there was a couple guys in there that had attorneys. They're pretty serious businesses. And the attorneys were telling them that piece of paper isn't going to be worth anything when you're in court. And what they were saying is if you get liability insurance through a proper company, then their attorneys are going to defend you. And they've got expensive attorneys because they don't want to give up their money. And, after kind of going back and forth with those guys, I thought, they've got a real point here. So I think you need to have, I think they call it a marine rider or something like that. I need to go back and look. But there is a discussion on Forestry Forum about it, and there are some recommendations in companies that will do it. I think, like, I use USAA. I don't think they'll do sawmill insurance through USAA. I was working with them at one point and then got sidetracked. And, if I'm not going and doing jobs, I don't think about it as much versus milling for myself at our property where I do have liability. So it's kind of one of those things where if I'm out running around on the Sawdust Roadshow, I start really thinking about it. And then if I'm up at the cabin, I don't. But a lot of people do. So, Patrick, so you must be in the PNW group on Facebook, I'm guessing. And how long have you had that LT40, Patrick? I'm curious. And what kind of bread do you make? I'm not going to turn this into a bread making thing, but why not, right? Well, let's talk about it. I make all breads, but and we must have been close to Oysterville last year because we spent a week on the coast running around in the Jeep and just having a good time. And we were up at Long Beach in that area. So we were probably pretty close. And had I known you were there, I would have loved to have stopped by, and I'll have to keep that in mind in the future. We love to go over to the coast, and either we'd go run some Jeep trails out of Tillamook or, go do the lighthouses or just go at different beaches and stuff like that. And so love to do that. And there's something I was told to go see. I want to say it's Waterville, something like that, on the Washington side across from Astoria, that I need to go check out. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head right now. Maybe it was a restaurant or something. But so anyway, and if somebody else carries insurance on your mill, if you do some travel with it, drop a comment down below. Let us know who you use. Oh, Pat, so you're Southwest Michigan as well, huh? That's cool. I might have caught that already. But I try to keep up with what's going on in the chat here. So be sure to drop your questions down there. Let's see what time we got. We still got plenty of time. I bumped my premiere 15 minutes just so that I could answer a few more questions and chat a little bit more with you. And again, it was my fault that we didn't get the proper notifications going out this morning when I sent this out the first time. So... And Jerry, I haven't actually got back with that customer. I need to do that. And I just haven't been able to figure out when I would have availability. So if you're interested, I may just have to hand that one off to you, let you work with the customer and arrange it. And I may not be able to be there. I've got so much going on right now that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to be anywhere other than, my weekends, I think, are eaten up between now and July 4th. And so I may, if you've got the availability, all it is he wanted at least one log milled up. There may be two. So, it depends on whether you want to make that drive over. I think Jerry, which is Skookum Sawmill, he's about 70 miles east from me. And I reached out to him recently because I have a customer who has some logs. They may be sycamore. I'm not sure. I couldn't quite tell from the pictures. He doesn't know what they are, but he just wanted them milled up, and he wasn't looking for anything fancy, like maybe 2.5-inch slabs or something like that. And because the mill's running sick, and because I was struggling, I reached out to Jerry, just like I had with Kevin, that you'll see today, and he offered to possibly come and do those for me. It's one of those things where if I can't get to a customer, I usually try to find somebody that can get to them. And that's one thing about this community for guys like Pat, who just got a sawmill. It's a really small community. I find that guys that run mills and produce for other people often work together. I know that there's another gentleman named Michael Weller. If you've been on Facebook, you've probably seen him post. He's up north of me in the North Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, somewhere in that area as well. And I actually handed off some forester. I used to do these shows. And if you're thinking about ways to build your business, one of the ways you can do that is get a hold of your local university and find out if they have a forestry program. And yeah, Paul, I probably will, by the way. But anyway, so if and I'm going to skip a beat here and answer Paul, folks. But I normally do Sundays whenever I'm available on a Sunday. So if I'm gone, like I'll be gone this next weekend, we're going camping with the grandkids. I'll be back by Sunday evening, so I'll probably do a live, and I'll set it up ahead of time. I don't do them every Sunday because just the nature of the beast, whether, if we're out of town or if I'm milling or whatever, I can't always do them every week. I would love to do them every week, but unfortunately right now that's just not possible. So I think I'll try to do one next weekend. I thought about doing one this weekend, and if you want me to do one this weekend, drop a comment down below in the chat. Let me know, because I think I could this Sunday, which would be tomorrow. A little bit of a short notice, but I might be willing to do it. But all right, where was I? I lost track. I was talking about something. Somebody remind me what I was talking about. Where was I? I lost it. So don't know what the heck I was talking about. Don't you hate it when that happens? Went to answer a question, and now I don't know what I was saying. That's the way it is some days. Getting old, I guess. But where are we at here? Oh, we got a few minutes left. I may be able to. We could stretch it till 7:15 for the live. That should do it. And but anyway, so I got 8 of you here. What other questions we got? Patrick, I was asking you something about your mill. How long you've had it? How many hours you got on it? Tell me that too. Paul, how about you? How long have you had your mill? How many hours you got on it? I'm always curious. And I got to tell you guys, the Arrowhead Woodsman, he also has a YouTube channel. You can look him up. He's got, I want to say your mill. I know it has a manual clutch. Is it an LT? Is it an LT40 or is it an LT30? I was watching a video he did. I actually shared it on my community page this winter. I was watching a video he did where he must have been in 3 feet of snow. It's kind of hilarious, actually. He was making shiplap or something like that, and the snow was like almost the height of the deck. LT28, and that's a manual mill too, right? No hydraulics, but and so he's got snow up to his waist, and he's out there milling. I'm thinking only in Minnesota, you know. Maybe Wisconsin, they might do that, or upper peninsula or something like that. But I want to know. Oh, hey, Desert Hobo, good morning, buddy. On your way to a job, just wanted to say good morning. Good morning, buddy. Hey, I figured I was early enough maybe for the Eastern crowd, but I thought, you guys are probably all heading out to work. But when you got time to mill, that's right. When the sun is shining, you make hay when the sun is shining, right? So, oh gosh, that's another one. Desert Hobo. You could have answered the question about insurance maybe for us too, but I think he's probably already popped out and headed down the road. So, and did we lose Patrick? We might have lost Patrick, because he was chatting there, and then he disappeared. So, oh, gotta mill some basswood. I haven't done that at all. Wow. LT40 is an 89. A year ago. Wow, awesome. An 89, huh? Is that a hydraulic, manual clutch, auto clutch, simple set, AccuSet 2? I'm curious now. Those older mills are pretty amazing. I've seen some that are running, and in fact, I think Arrowhead Woodsman, your LT28, that's not a new mill either. That one's been around a while. It's kind of amazing. I actually have a customer who's also on Facebook, who just bought a LT40 Super Hydraulic. It's like a 90s mill, and it was in really good shape, had low hours on it. They got a heck of a deal. He drove all the way to the Midwest somewhere, maybe all the way to Arkansas. I don't know. He drove a long way to go pick that mill up. Patrick, let's see. That was, hydraulic. Okay. And then, and Arrowhead Woodsman. So yours is an '04. That's not too old. That's 19 years. That's not too bad. It's still in the 2000s. You must have put a lot of wood through that mill. That's 19 years. That's a long time. But and so Patrick, a year ago, have you done a lot of milling with it? You got some big wood over there on the coast. I bet you got some big dog fir over there. I'm quite certain that you do. As a matter of fact, I mean, we've got some big logs here, but over on the coast, folks, everybody thinks of Washington State as the evergreen state. Well, Patrick's in the evergreen part of the state. Anything over on the coast, and for me, the coast is Cascades heading west. Out here, everything's so much drier. We do get some big logs up in the arid pine forest. We can get some big Doug firs in there. On this side of the Cascades, you could get some big logs, but not like the coast. I've seen Doug firs that were, 6 feet across on the coast. So it sits outside. Yeah, no, my mill is outside almost 100% of the time. The only time my mill's ever been inside is when I had it in the shop this winter to try and get the hydraulics fixed and to get the laser installed. And that laser install, I feel bad for Apenex because they sent me the laser. Full disclosure, they just sent it to me and asked me to give it a try. And there was so much trouble just getting parts because Wood-Mizer, of course, like with everything, they were struggling to get a lot of their components out. And I think it took over a month for me to get the mount, because I had to use a Wood-Mizer mount. That's one thing with the LT40, at least the standard anyway. There's not really a good place to mount a laser except on a Wood-Mizer laser mount. And so I got their mount, and then it took so long between getting the laser, getting the mount, and my backs. I had trouble with my back all winter. By the time I got out there, I got confused because I had another mount that I got from Apenex, but for some reason I thought I got it from Wood-Mizer. It took a while for me to get everything figured out. Now, the LT40 and above, they already have a power wire run from the control all the way into, the main head assembly and wrapped up. So all you got to do is clip it out, run it over to the laser, you're good to go. Well, technically you don't run up to the laser, you run from the laser to it, but it's already there. Plug it in a switch and away you go. But it took a while to get that all rigged out just because of all the trouble I was having with my hydraulics and my back and the winter and everything else. And then I didn't have any logs to mill when I even got it together. And as I mentioned in the video from last week, I actually had planned on finally adjusting it up at the cabin on this last trip, and the mill was sick, the sun was shining. I couldn't even see the laser because I happened to have the mill set up so that the sun was directly beating down on the logs. It's not going to work in that environment. So, all right, cedar and spruce. Yeah, so you don't have big Doug firs over there. I would have thought you did, but you can get some monster cedar though. Let's see. Bought it used. This is Paul Green. Bought it used. Oh, electric winch on it first thing. 4,000 hours. I put several hundred hours on it. I've learned a lot from your videos. Thank you for them. Hey, you bet, buddy. 06. Awesome. 4,000 hours. To me, that's amazing. That's awesome. I love to hear that. These mills, I don't know about today's mills, right? So, and nothing against Wood-Mizer. I love Wood-Mizer. But in all industries today, like right now, I put together orders for a big government operation. for my day job. And you know, I'll put together an order for like Milwaukee tools, and then they'll come back and say, yeah, we're not making those now, we're making these. And I actually had one order where I put in for a kit, and they said, we don't make the kit, you got to buy the single. And so we switched it to the single, and then they said, yeah, we quit making that, now we're making this one. And so all industries across the board are struggling even today to get all the parts they need. And in a case like Wood-Mizer, I think because the industry just fell flat during the COVID years and lumber went through the roof and everybody was buying sawmills, they've had a hard time keeping up. And so I've heard some different things about some of the brand new mills where guys are, you know, having some bearing issues and some different things that are happening that I've just not heard of on the old mills. And so I kind of wonder, you know, hopefully that's all sorted out, or maybe it's just new mills. Sometimes things happen. And I mentioned that in today's video. You know, one of the things about these mills is we beat the heck out of these mills. And, you know, so if you've got a mill with 2,000, 4,000 hours, whether you put those hours on them or not, there's been a lot of maintenance done. It's kind of like a 500-hour window usually, right? About 500 hours, you probably are going to have to replace the bearings under the carriage. That's just a reality. At around 2,000 to 3,000 hours, you usually need to replace the bushings in the pump motor. I had to replace my whole pump motor, but truthfully, I still got to break open the old one and find out if the bushings were the only or the brushes, not bush. I keep saying bushings, brushes. If the brushes were the problem, I suspect they were, but they really shouldn't have been. Again, though, I think my mill was close to lightning, and I think that's why I had some gremlins in the control panel, and I'm concerned about the control module on the motor, if maybe that also is troubling me right now with the running rich condition. And I'm going to fix it. I'm actually going to put something on the mill that's going to protect it from lightning strikes and EMPs. And you know, we guys, mostly you almost got to be in the prepper community to know about EMPs, but you know, a big solar flare, which they do happen, can actually cause a problem with electronics. And so I've decided I've had enough of replacing electronic components on my sawmill. So I'm going to put an EMP shield on it and see how that goes. And I'll bring it to you guys, let you know how it, and I'm paying for it myself, by the way. This isn't sponsored by anybody. They ain't paying me for it. I'm paying for it myself. And I'm putting it on the mill because I believe I had lightning near the mill, and I worked in the communication industry for 30 years. And, you know, in that industry, you know that lightning, even a mile away, can travel through the ground and it can hurt you, let alone your electronic equipment. And you've got a mill with steel legs planted on the ground. Guess what? It's an attractant. So I'm worried about that control module on the motor. So we'll find out. It may not be an issue. It could just be that I just need to replace some filters and things and get her fired up again, and we'll be good to go. And I'll find out, and I'll definitely bring that to you. But all right, we're up to 9 folks right now. We're doing good on time because I bumped that video, the premiere, to 7:15. So if you just join us, drop a line, say hi below, let me know you're here. And any questions you got, ask them. That goes for everybody. So, and electric winch. So Paul, your LT40 then must be a manual, I'm guessing. And so you must have put the winch on like I did on my old LT10 that I put on a trailer. If you go back and you look at, I think I've got some playlists. One's called the early years, and I think one's called the LT10 years or something like that. I decided to make those videos public again. I'd actually shut them off because they're my first videos and they're just not very good. So, oh, LT28. Okay, I don't know why I was thinking LT40. So then Arrowhead Woodsman, he's got an LT28, by the way. But anyway, if you go back and look at those old videos on the LT10, I had a swing up winch arm on the operator side of the mill, and we would swing that up and then run the cable out to the log and roll it up the ramps that way if it was a big log. We mostly just rolled them up the ramps by hand, but you know, that winch really helped. And I did something else. I put a winch on the far end of the mill, and I would always try to load the logs close to the mill head. But if I needed to move a log down the deck, I had a boat winch on the far end, and I could just wrap that around the log and then crank the boat winch and drag the log down the deck a little bit. So that was kind of some of the crazy stuff you do on those manual mills, so that you can you could get logs up and move them around on those. But they just keep going. So, but on that LT28, you got a 19 horse motor on that. How about you too, Arrowhead? Arrowhead, you're going to have to tell me what your dang name is. I'm sure you've told me probably a couple times before. I'm really bad that way. I always tend to remember the nicknames I see online more than I remember names. I think it took me, I don't know. I even this morning on my earlier stream, I was talking about John Davidson, and for some reason I had it in my head Davies, and I don't know why. I just kept thinking Davies, and I had to constantly tell myself, Eric, it's John Davidson. So I'm bad. Tom, okay, you've told me that before. I remember now. Sorry about that. I'm terrible. Actually, there's a guy on Forestry Forum, Fluid Power Pro. He's helped me out a ton. Super nice guy. He's also watched my videos and commented on them. And I want to say his name's Tom too. And he actually commented about valves, valve lash on my Kohler, but somebody else did, and I got the two of them confused. So 18 horse Kohler, gotcha. Okay, so I'm guessing Paul probably has the same motor on his, but right on. All right, we still got 6 of you. We got less than 15 minutes before the premiere, so let's get a few more questions in before the premiere starts, and we get to watch a video together. And I think you guys are going to enjoy it. It's kind of fun. I mean, this is actually one of my longer videos. So for those that have been asking me to do longer than 16 minutes, well, guess what? Today's is going to be longer than 16 minutes. I want to say today's video is 20. Here, I'm going to tell you what it is if I can. Come on, usually it tells you how long it is, and I can't even see how long it is on. It's like 24 minutes or something like that. I have trouble centering the log. The ramps aren't centered with the winch. Does anyone else have that problem? So, Tom, I'm going to use your name now. Do you have an answer for that? So I will tell you, if your ramps aren't centered, that can be a bit of a challenge. And your mill may have already had a setup for a winch. I'm trying to remember on the LT28s if they didn't have the option for a swing out arm. But if the winch is not centered on the ramps, you should be able to just load the log a little bit, snuck over to one side or the other. Oh, you don't have a winch. You probably use a tractor then, or are you doing it by hand? Now, Paul, if you don't move that mill, then what I would suggest is you build a raised log deck. That's what a lot of guys use. Oh, use a mini X. Okay. So a lot of guys do a raised log deck, but if you don't have that option and your ramps aren't centered with the winch, then I would say, obviously you probably already tried sneaking a log over to one side. I mean, that's something that I would do with big logs. I would always sneak them to the mill head side, because my concern on my old manual mill was once I got them up on the deck, if they were too far down the far end of the deck, I couldn't mill all the way down, and I couldn't move them once they were on the deck. Oh, you raised your log deck. Okay, so Tom's got a raised log deck. So, Paul, I don't know if you're in that position where you can do a raised log deck, and I know that doesn't solve your winch problem, but something to consider. But as far as the winch deal goes, I would say it doesn't have to be centered though. Honestly, the log just needs to be so that you can get all the way to the end and come out the other end. So I've been thinking about designing a movable winch for my LT28. Okay, Tom, go back. If you haven't watched those LT10 videos, you got to go back and watch those and see if you can see that winch arm. There may be one that I may or may not have available right now where I don't think I put it up. I'm trying to think, because I had one where I actually winched up a 16 footer on my LT10, and I don't think I have a video of actually winching it up. But what we did is we put like a 3-inch round pipe, like a Schedule 40 steel pipe, and welded that under the frame, and then took like a 2.5-inch or whatever, and it might have been a 4-inch and a 3-inch, whatever, right? You take two pipes, one that fits just inside the other, weld the pipe under the frame, then you weld a square tubing arm onto the pipe that fits inside the other pipe, right? And make it so that it could swing up and down. And all you have to do is the pipe that goes inside the 4-inch or 3-inch pipe, whichever, you just put, something to stop on the backside. I think what we may have done, I don't remember today, but it might have been bolted so that you had like a washers capturing it made out of steel plate, something to that effect. Or maybe it was just tabs that were welded on so that it wouldn't come off, right? And then, so you had the two pipes together, grease them up good, be good to put a grease fitting in there, or two. And so that allowed it to swing up and down. And I want to say we had some kind of a lock on it. I don't remember, but if I remember correctly, when we swung the arm up, it would lock in place. And then you had to pull, and it was probably a pin lock like a jack. To pull the lock out, drop the arm back down. And I think we had it bent slightly. So, it wasn't perfectly straight. It had a bit of a bend to it, so that when it came up, it actually brought the winch out a little bit away from the edge of the deck. But when it was swung down, it was out of the way still, so I could still walk past it without it being in my way. And so you put the winch head on top of that, run the wires through the square pipe or on the outside, whatever, and run those back to your battery box. Now, on my LT10, it didn't have an alternator or a battery. It was strictly a pull start, Briggs, I think. It started with a 7 horse, went up to a 10 horse. So we mounted a battery box on the mill between the frame and ran the wiring back to that. And that actually worked pretty good. I agree, it's all good. Dave or John or Davies, at least he is not calling me bad names. Or late for dinner, right? But so anyway, Tom, that's what I did. And it worked really, really well, actually. You just run the cable out to the log and away you go. So something to think about. I was thinking about a boat winch. Well, you could do the exact same thing with a boat winch. If you're just looking on the side for the loading side, a boat winch. In fact, I had a boat winch on and I forgot about this till just now. So this is it. You might find this interesting. I had the boat winch on a receiver hitch type setup, so I could actually pull it off the mill. And if I don't remember correctly, we were thinking about putting a receiver hitch on the opposite side of the mill where the tongue was, and being able to slide it in right there as well. I don't think we ever got that far, but that was the original plan, so we could drag a log either way down the deck. But we also could take that boat winch off and put it on the swing up arm, so that if my battery died and I needed to be able to load a log with the winch and the battery was dead, I could pull the electric winch off, put the boat winch on, and away you go. So it would be movable on a rail like my saw head. Oh, interesting. That'd be interesting. That I don't know how that would work. You'd have to show us how that would work. That'd be interesting. I mean, because if you could move it down one way or another and then lock it into place, that would definitely be good. But on the LT28s, those are single rail too, aren't they? I think those are single rail mills, so that'd be different. All right, we've got less than 5 minutes, so I'm going to give you one more question so I can get another cup of coffee before we start the premiere, which is going to start in less than 5 minutes. We're just about ready to start that premiere. Wheels on it. Oh, like your saw head. Oh, I got you. Okay, yeah. No, that would be interesting. You definitely have to bolt it down good so that if you're winching on it on a side angle, you wouldn't want to have it twist over. But I'm sure there's a way to brace it or something to make it work. That could be very interesting. But last question we got. We got time for one more question. Then I'm going to drop and pop over to the premiere and get ready for today's video, which I hope you'll all join me on. I think you're going to enjoy it. It should be a lot of fun. You're going to see somebody else with over 1 million board feet under his belt knocking out a sycamore in style. I'll tell you, it's crazy. He does not mess around, folks. If you want to see a sawyer that does not mess around, you'll want to watch today's video with me, because I think you're going to enjoy it. But any more questions? Last chance, and then I'm going to drop so I can get coffee before my video starts. I got to fill up the Old Jarhead's mug. Going once, going twice. Where is Kevin at? Kevin, he's up in Coeur d'Alene. Actually, he's in Plummer, Idaho, which I think is a little south of Coeur d'Alene. About 2.5, 3 hours. I think he said his GPS said 2 hours, 45 minutes. And he drove in and drove out in the same day and milled like crazy. And it got almost 100 degrees out. It was insane. But we're going to start in the shade. So, guys, I'm going to drop off. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you being here today. And if you're not a subscriber, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I think y'all are. But I'm going to go ahead and drop, get coffee, and we're going to start the premiere. So thanks for watching. Let's do it.